Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of SoTellUs Time, your favorite time of the week. I know it's your favorite time of the week. It is a beautiful Tuesday morning. I don't know where you're at in the country, but I can tell you here in Arizona, we have been getting a lot of rain. In fact, the desert's not used to this much rain. We've been having tons of flooding going on. Over the weekend, I even had to pull out a pump and start pumping out my pool, which was like so close to overflowing. And then I have an in-ground trampoline. Yeah, it's crazy. I have an in-ground trampoline that they actually put one of those French drains in like the middle of my backyard to drain into the trampoline because it's a good size circumference and depth, right? So that holds a lot of water. That was all the way up to where the drain portion of it was backfilling, right? Because it had gotten too high. So Arizona, the desert does not know how to absorb that much water. So we've been having a fun time here in Arizona. And I feel like people also, they don't know what to do when there's rain. They don't know how to drive. That's for sure. We're used to dry weather, not wet weather, and not humidity. Ugh. I'm telling you, today in the office, I was telling Troy, I'm like, man, it is humid in here. And so he's like, no, I love it. Troy, listen, I was born in Michigan. Troy lived in Michigan for a long time. And so he's probably just used to that humidity, He's a good old Southern boy. All right, guys. Well, anyways, hey, happy Columbus Day yesterday, everybody. That's exciting and fun, right? I mean, really, it didn't change anything for us. We just worked. But my kids did have their trade school off, which is called EVIT. So there you go. Big fun times. All right. Today, we're going to jump into a great episode. Today's episode is called Disaster Proof Your Business. Most business owners think that, that'll never happen to me. But when disaster strikes from like a data breach or power outages, or even like your top employees quitting overnight. I think we've all experienced that before, where we've had somebody who's crucial decide that they're going to move on. And when they like to do it? They like to do it on Friday at the end of the day, or even they hit send on that email with their letter of resignation as they walk out the door. So we've probably all experienced that before. And then we had to jump in and pick up the slack, right? So what we're going to be talking about today is being prepared so that when these situations happen and other situations, right, that you are ready for it. The business will survive, that it won't just completely shut down the business, because that would be horrifying. In fact, we call that the silver bullet over here, right? Like, we always are looking at what are our silver bullets in the business, because we're werewolves over here, and a silver bullet will just take us down. Hey, perfect theme for Halloween, right?
It's October.
Exactly. All right, guys, enough of my rants and raves. Let's jump into Troy's education.
All right, so let's talk about why most businesses don't actually have an emergency plan. And the most common reasons are, for owners to skip planning is, they have that mindset of, oh, it won't happen to me, right? Yeah. And of course, it's never going to happen to you until it happens to you, right? And then you're in trouble. So a lot of business owners have that. We try to think, or we fool ourselves that, oh, it's never going to happen to us. I've got everything under control. Like, it's not a problem. We're good to go. Another common reason is that you're overwhelmed. Right? You don't know where to start. You're like, yes, this could take down my business, but I don't even know how to solve that problem. So I'm just going to ignore it. I'm going to just put it in the closet over there, close the door. It'll just go away. Right. Or, sometimes we're just super focused on the growth of the business that we don't even put any thought into protecting the business. We're like, oh man, we're growing so fast. Things are going so great. Nothing can stop us. And we don't think about how we're going to protect that business at all.
And we see that all the time. People are like, oh, things are good, things are great, and they love it, and life's going good, and money's flowing. and they're not reinvesting in their business. And then when do they walk in our door? They come running in our door and they're like, I need help. Everything's falling apart. And it's like, dude, but now you have no money. Now you have no contingency plan. Like, we're your contingency plan. It's really crazy. When things are good is when people should be preparing for things to not be so good, right? Business does this. Woo!
Yep, exactly. So we'll kind of give you an example. And this one's coming out of our, our business. And Trevor kind of mentioned one of those scenarios where you have an employee leave, right? At an inopportune moment. And what do? And for us, we had landed a contract with a big franchise, and we were doing a ton of work for them. And we had an employee that was pretty much dedicated mostly to working on that project. And, and I think they realized that they were a key person, a key employee for that project. And they kind of thought to themselves, like, I'm so important that, I can take advantage of this situation. So like Trevor said, it was a Friday afternoon, end of the day. They literally left work. They hit send on an email and left work right then. And basically it was their letter of resignation of, hey guys, look, I'm resigning from the company, but I know you had this really, really big project that I was working on, and I don't want to leave you, out to dry. So if you'd like me to continue to work on that project, I'd be happy to do that. I think it was at double or triple my hourly rate.
Yeah, it was triple.
Yeah, triple the hourly rate.
They weren't even worth what we were paying them. No.
And it was, again, they thought, oh, I've got these guys over the barrel, and, they need me to finish this project for them. So I'm going to, be able to triple my rate and, make a ton of money and take advantage of this. And luckily, Trevor was prepared. Trevor knew exactly what they were doing, how they were doing it. He knew exactly how the project needed to go. And so he literally just got in his vehicle, drove back to the office, and spent the entire weekend, Trevor, working on that project.
Weekend. Yeah. The entire weekend. I was like, you ain't gonna put me over a barrel, buddy.
Yeah. And so, and then he wrote this nice email to him of, oh, thank you so much for your resignation. Nope, we don't need your help at all. And, I think that was really probably pretty devastating email that they received, because they weren't leaving us because they had another job that they were going to go, start on Monday. They were leaving us because they wanted to take advantage of a situation. So come, Monday morning when they had no work, very tough for them. But again, could have been a really bad situation for us if Trevor wasn't prepared, to handle that situation. He was prepared in advance. So, that's the thing. Emergencies can happen to any business at any time, and they're going to expose the weak spots in your business. And some of those weak spots you may not even know that you have. So you really need to be thinking ahead, and analyzing your business and looking for those silver bullets, as Trevor said. So let's talk about, why having an emergency plan isn't just a safety net. It's really like a smart business strategy. And we just kind of gave you a good example of that, right? But we're going to go through, some other things here. So let's talk about the real cost of not being prepared. So we need to think about, what are some things that could really ultimately hurt our business? And Trevor mentioned some of them. Natural disasters is a big one, right? Depending on where you're at in the country, fire, flood, storm, power outages, internet outages can be a big part, that can really hit your business. So you need to have a plan for those kind of things. So for example, if you own a restaurant and your power goes out and it goes out for a long period of time, do you have backup generators that are going to keep that food good? Or are you going to lose thousands of dollars in food because of a power outage? I was driving home, I think it was on Friday. And because of all the rain, several blocks businesses, all their power was out, like everything totally dark as I'm driving down the road. And I'm thinking, wow, look at all those restaurants right there. I don't see any lights in any of these restaurants. I sure hope they have generators to keep that food cold, right? But they never expected, they weren't expecting that for literally blocks and blocks of power to go out. There's other threats too. There's digital threats, whether it's data loss or cyber attacks on your business. What would happen if, the platform you use, all of a sudden went down and you lost all of your data, all of your customer data, right? Think about that. There's operational breakdowns. So maybe it's supply chain issues. What if you couldn't get the supplies that you need to run your business? What would happen? How would that affect your business? I actually just had another story of that one happening the other day. There's a restaurant that opened up near us, and it's called Zaxby's, and they launched, and we were like, oh, cool, let's go over, and we're going to go through their drive-through and get some food and try it out. And we wait in this big long line through the drive-through, and we get up to the very front, and we're like, okay, here's what we'd like to order. And right as we're placing our order, one of the other employees walks out, and they're like, hey, we don't have any more chicken and we don't have any more fries. And it's like,
guess what? I mean, our people from the South, they know Zaxby's is chicken and fries, man. I mean, that's what they are.
What it is. Yeah. So it's like, bad situation. All of a sudden there's a bunch of people waiting in line thinking that they're ordering food, that they're not ordering food, right? Bunch of negative reviews came in because they weren't prepared. They didn't have enough, right? They didn't plan ahead for that big launch. So another one.
And right? Think about that. What seemed like probably to them at the moment was a good thing. They're like, oh my gosh, we're doing so well. We've literally sold out of our chicken and our fries. It's like, then became a bad situation. People wrote negative reviews. People were upset. Like the employees were getting yelled at, and it made an experience where people are going to be mad and they may not go back, So not a great situation.
So another one that is important and we really need to watch out for is personal crises, right? Whether it's illness or, like Trevor said, a sudden resignation from somebody, how are you going to take care of those situations? Because they come up, they do, and there's no predicting them. So you've just got to be prepared. All right. Now there's also ripple effects that come from that. So you're talking lost revenue, you're talking downtime in the business. Like we just talked about, damaged reputation and customer trust. Zaxby's had that problem. And there can even be legal and compliance issues that come with that business, with that as well, depending on how bad it is. So I found a stat. It actually said that, FEMA, they reported that 40% of small businesses never reopen after a disaster. That's crazy. Yeah. 40%, right? They're just not prepared and they can't, take the hit and they go out of business. So,
wow.
And not everything's going to be a FEMA disaster, right? We've talked about other disasters, but, any one of those disasters could take your business out if it's a silver bullet. All right. What an emergency plan should include? Let's talk about that. What you need to have in your emergency plan. Number one, you need to have risk assessment. Basically, you need to identify what could realistically go wrong in your business, across the board. So not just, the top thing that could go wrong. You need to look at all of the different things that could go wrong in your business and, identify how likely is it that they can go wrong. Then you need to have a communication plan. So basically, if this happens, who do we contact? How do we contact them? When do we contact them? Really important. What you don't want is your employees sitting around doing nothing because they don't know what to do. It's like, oh, the internet went out. Okay, what do we do? Oh, I just got on our phone and check out TikTok until, the bosses figure out the internet's down and fix it. No, you got to have a plan in place, a communication plan there for them. And then you want to have backup systems, right? Whether that's data, that's power, that's key resources, so like for us, we're an internet business. We don't have, even though we have internet with one of the largest providers, in the United States, we have backup internet from a completely different provider. So that if that provider goes down, our employees can immediately get on our backup internet and be working, right? So we have backup systems in place, backup power systems, right? So the power goes out. Do you have a backup power unit? If you need, that for your business, that's another backup system. And then, again, key resources, whether that resource is people or other things, right? Do you have cross training done in your business so that if you lose an employee today, someone else can pick up that work and do it? So next one is training and drills. So you want to keep your team prepared and confident, right? Make sure that they know what to do in an emergency. And, if you need to drill it, you drill it. Now I don't know if that means you're doing fire drills in your business or not, but, make sure that they understand and they know what to do in those situations. And then, of course, you want to have recovery steps. So how do we get back to normal operation? What needs to happen in order to get us back to where we need to be? So like with us, with our internet, it's really simple. Internet goes down, everybody on the team knows, boom, switch over to the other internet, and you're back up and running. Simple process, right? But they know what to do. They're not walking around going, hey, my internet's not working, guys. Awesome. You know what to do as soon as if you have an internet problem. So let's talk about our next section, which is how to build your plan in 5 simple steps. Step number 1 is start small. Pick one likely scenario that is, that could happen in your business and address that one first. Next thing you want to do is write it down, right? Write down simple, clear steps. Those are way better than having no steps. So you don't have to put a ton of time into it. Just make simple, clear steps and start with that. And then the next step is you want to assign clear roles. So who does what in that moment, and make sure that they understand what their role is in that moment. And then, of course, back up everything, right? So you want to store both digital, physical copies, have everything backed up. Again, we're a tech company. Every single computer in our company has a backup drive attached to it and is backing up every 15 minutes. Because what's on our computers is really important to us and to our business. So we have those backups in place. And then the other thing is you want to review yearly, right? Meaning update as your business grows or changes. The crazy thing is sometimes we put these plans in place and then we let it go for years and we never check it out again. And all of a sudden, when that emergency does happen, well, guess what? Our plan is so outdated that it doesn't work anymore. And we're in the emergency, right? And now we're going to have those problems that we thought we prepared for, but we didn't because we weren't reviewing it every year and updating that plan accordingly. All right. So, Trevor, what else do you want to add?
I would say that the actions that need to be taken is you need this week to spend at least 30 minutes to identify your top 3 business risks. Write them down, okay? There is power in the pen and power in writing things down. When we write things down, they become more real. And so when you take that 30 minutes, find those top 3 things that are big risks, right? The silver bullets, like we talked about. Pretend for Halloween that you are a werewolf and you don't want those silver bullets flying your way, right? And if they do, you want to have something to block them, right? So look at those things, write them down, and then kind of, because here's the thing is, it's not something that maybe can just be taken care of immediately. Not every silver bullet, not every risk can be taken care of immediately. And this is why I say write it down, right? Write it down, hang it on the wall next to your desk or something. Put it in a place that you're going to look at it and see it. And what I want you to do is just to look at those 3. And this week, you're going to start to determine how to tackle at least one of those, right? how do we tackle one of these situations, and make sure that we take it from being a silver bullet that can really ruin the business or shut the business down, and we turn it into less of a disaster situation. We have, maybe it's not ideal, maybe it's going to be painful, right? But we have something in place that allows us to continue to run our business, right? Continue to move forward, because I can tell you, even if it's painful, even if you got to go work all weekend, even if you got to sleep at the office like I did, right? It was so much better. And this was a long time ago. This was years and years and years ago. And I mean, if I would have just, what do we do? And this big client walked away from us, that could have really been painful for us. And who knows, it could have changed the course of our entire business, and we wouldn't be as large as we are today, and we wouldn't have helped so many people. So, all right, guys, take the 30 minutes, write down the top 3, and then just start to focus on one of those 3. Okay. And you will slowly, by the end of the year, you should be able to have a contingency plan for all 3 of those at least. All right. Well, we love you. We appreciate you. And we will catch you guys on the next episode of SoTellUs Time.